Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Beatrice. I'm a final year nursing student in the UK, and today I'll be sharing with you survival tips on passing your first placement. Sometimes it's not just about passing the placement per se, it's just getting through that first day. I was so anxious on my first day, and to be honest, I think everyone gets anxious on their first day on anything they do, new job, new anything. But today we'll be talking about you acing that first day or just flying through your first placement like a boss. If this is something you want to see, please stay tuned. I'll be right back. So guys, I'll be splitting this video into general things you need to know about placements and things you need to do before your placement starts, things to do during your placement, and things to do just at the end. Okay, so the general things you need to know is that you're going to be allocated a practice assessor and a practice supervisor. This used to be called like mentors back in the day, but now it's called like practice assessor and practice supervisor. You most likely will be working more with your practice supervisor. Sometimes if your assessor is like less busy or she wants to have more time with you, she could request that. So you have your practice assessor and your practice supervisor. Those two people are going to be in charge of your activities around that placement. Something else you need to know is that you're going to have something called a practice assessment document. For some schools it's like on the internet, like an E1, where sometimes it's actually like hard copy paper. But regardless of if it's hard copy or soft copy, just know that you're going to have a practice assessment document and you need to know everything inside it. Now when I say everything, I don't mean like literally everything. You need to know what these competencies you need to sign for your first placement, because this is how we get it wrong. Like if you get it wrong at the beginning, it's just going to drag, and before you know it, placement is done and you might not get everything signed off. So basically your assessor and supervisor, we have to sign you off on those competencies, those required competencies for this first placement or whichever placement you're going on. And it's important you know what's inside that document, because that's going to help you communicate with your assessor. Another thing you're going to have to experience is interviews. So you're going to have initial interview, which is the first interview, which should happen on your first day or within the first week. You're going to have a mid interview, which will happen at the middle of your placement. If it's like an 8-week placement, right at the middle, you should have an interview. Now your initial interview, first of all, is going to be about you having that first communication with your assessor. You want to find out, will my competencies be signed in this word? Can I sign all of my required competencies in this word? What if it's not a word? What if it's just a unit? And you have like competencies like personal care. Obviously, some of the competencies, if it's not a word, would need to be signed somewhere else, or you might have to go for a spoke placement. So a spoke placement is a placement where you do like 1 week, sometimes a few days in another ward or another unit that's going to help you sign that competence, those competencies you couldn't sign on your actual placement unit, if that makes sense. So something else you also will talk about in your initial interview is your assessor or supervisor is going to talk you through emergency numbers. Who do you call when there's a cardiac arrest? Who do you call if there's a fire outbreak? Emergency exits. So basically is going to be like an orientation. Yeah, you'll be given an induction. They'll show you around the ward, and then when you come back, you have a sit down and then you talk. I would advise that you have notes. You make notes of questions you need to ask. By that I mean you need to read your pad. I'm going to say called practice assessment document pad. You need to go through your pad before you come into your first placements and basically have your competencies looked at. Yeah, so that's for your initial interview. So if you have those competencies you think you might not be able to sign on that placement or in that ward or that unit, then this is the time to have that discussion. That I went through my practice document and I find these competencies. Do you think I can sign them off in this ward or in this unit, and then wait for the response. If they say yes, then you're fine. If they say no, then you can ask them, can you please organize a spoke placement for me? Sometimes some of them will tell you to organize that yourself. Sometimes they might help you. But regardless of if they're helping you or you're doing it yourself, at least you know on your first day or on your first week, so you can start putting things in place to making those calls and calling those words that you would want to do a spoke placement in. That's all for your initial interview. For your mid-interview, you need to, this is like a follow-up of your initial. And at this point, you are like in the middle of your placement. You need to ask, what do you think I'm doing well? Ask your assessor, what do you think I'm doing well? What do you think I'm not doing too well on? What do you think I need to put in place? What are the things you think I'm falling short of? This is the time you need to make those corrections. And sometimes people are too shy to ask, but it really makes sense because your assessor will go, this person is interested, or this person really wants to know where they're lacking and they want to correct this thing as soon as possible. And they would help you to say, okay, there's these competencies that maybe there are like 6 competencies you need to sign, and I think you're not really doing enough of what is going to impress me enough to want to sign you off as competent in that aspect. So in that case, now you know this is your mid-interview. Okay, what do you think I can do? What can I put in place? What can you help me do to meet up with your expectations? Look, your initial interview and your mid-interview should be like the best times to tackle possible issues that could arise with signing you off on competencies. So ask them, what do you think I'm not doing well? What do you think I'm not? Is it my communication? Is it how I interact with other staff? Am I too shy? I'm not outspoken? Am I not bringing myself forward? Like doing like volunteering for stuff? What is it you think I'm not doing well? I really want to get on top of this. If they see that zeal in you, to be honest, they're going to want to do more for you, and they want to say more and correct you on more stuff. And that's it for a mid-interview, sorry. For your final interview, at this point, this is like the last bit. And at this point, to be honest, I think they should have signed you off on a lot of things. If they haven't, you need to be pushing for it. Keep asking, please, can you sign me off of this? We did this yesterday. We did that yesterday. We did this 2 days ago. I did this with this person, and this is what happened. You can ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer, so you can sign me off. So at your final interview, this is not the point where you should be chasing someone to be signing you off for things you should have signed at your midpoint, if that makes sense. At this point, if everything went well, if everything has gone well so far, you should have just a few bits left to sign. And what you should be asking at this point is, what do you think I still didn't do well enough? What do you think I need to build up on? Obviously, they know this is your first placement. You're anxious. You're new into the profession. You're new into practice, and they will not expect you to know everything. But they would also have things to tell you to go take forward to your next placement. Because, like, from my experience, like, you build on your I'll call it portfolio. Your first placement, you're just very shy. Should I say this? Can I do that? Can I touch this? Can I touch that? But after a few placements, you improve. You just see yourself just doing things you didn't know you could do 6 months ago. So in final interview, ask questions. What do you think I need to take to my next placement? What do you think I did very well, so I can build up on that? And they're going to really just give you good feedback, mostly when they know that, okay, even though this is her first placement, even though this is his first placement, this person really wants to do better. They want to be better at what they do, even as student nurses. And I think that's a very good way to start, and a good way to like wrap up your first placement. Now let's talk about things you need to do before you go for your first placement. You'll be allocated a ward. You make sure the first thing you do is read up about that ward. It could be a stroke ward. It could be a heart care unit. So whatever body system is related to that ward, make sure you read up on them. They might have done it in school, but you need to go back and do your revision. Like if it's the heart care ward, the cardiovascular ward, obviously you need to read up on the cardiovascular system. If it's a stroke ward, you need to do both cardiovascular and nervous. So whatever, if it's a renal ward, read about the kidneys, read about your renal system. How does it work? If you have this background knowledge, when you go in and people start asking you questions or they start communicating with themselves, you would understand what's happening. And even if you then have questions to ask your assessor later on, they would just be filling in those gaps and not having to explain everything, if that makes sense. Another thing you need to do is please locate the hospital, locate the units before you actually start. I would advise you email them to say, my name is this and I'm from this is the year I'm in, and I've been allocated this place from this date to this date. I would like to know who my practice assessor and my practice supervisor is. Send that email. Then also physically take yourself to the ward, take yourself to the hospital, familiarize yourself with the hospital. If you drive, you need to find out about parking. How am I going to park? Is there free parking? Do I have to pay? How am I going to get there? If you don't drive, then you need to take the bus. How long is it going to take me to get to this hospital from my house? Because you most likely will be doing 12-hour shifts, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. If you leave, the last thing you want to do is go late to your first placement on your first day. That's the last thing. In fact, don't go late on placement, except obviously something happened. And if you've always been a punctual student and something happens, you go late, everyone will understand. But try your best. Know these things. Know where to park. Know where to get the bus. So go there. Physically take yourself to the hospital. Go to the hospital. Find the ward. Know where to locate, how to locate the ward. And go into the ward. Meet the manager. My name is Beatrice. My name is whoever. I'm from this school and I've been allocated here, and it's going to last from this period to this period. I just want to have a look around, ask questions. On my first placement, I'll give you a quick story. I went to the ward and I met that day I met the sister. She showed me around, actually. She was really nice, showed me around, introduced me to people. Oh, this is Beatrice. She'll be starting Monday, or I can't remember how many days before my placement started I went. And I met people. I met the staff in the ward. She took me to her office. I asked about parking. She told me about parking, even if I don't drive yet. She told me about parking, and she actually did my rota for like 4 weeks. So imagine, even a week before I started placement, I already knew how my month was going to go about. I knew how everything was going to plan out. She gave me my assessor that day, told me who my practice assessor was. She was off, but I knew who my practice assessor was. I knew who my practice supervisor was. This visit took 30 minutes at most. Everything just went by quickly. She did all these things on my first. It wasn't even my first day yet. I had met a lot of staff. I said hello. Make sure you say hello. Be nice to them. They'll be nice to you. And yeah, so that visit made me less anxious, to be very honest. I was still anxious on my first day, but because I had met the sister, I had met most of the staff, I felt a little bit more at ease. So please visit that ward before your first day. Final thing I want to talk about before you go on placement is to read up your practice assessment documents. I talked about this when I was explaining what your interview would be about. So read up that document. It gives you an idea of how you're going to plan your initial interview. Don't go into your initial interview without a note of what you should ask, what you want to talk about, because most times, obviously, it's always busy and your assessor would want to run off and do something else. But if you have a plan, you can say, oh, I wrote this down, I have this here, what do I do about this? Will I get signed off on this in this ward? If you have all these things planned out for your initial interview, I promise you everything is going to fall in place for the rest of your placements. And even though you then encounter issues at some point, you will be prepared because you would have had that conversation at the beginning, and then you can tackle it from there. Now, on your first day, you've bought your notepad, you have your pen, you have your uniform, it's ironed, everything is in place, right? And you're still anxious. Honestly, everybody gets anxious on their first day on placement. And when you get there, just smile and say hello to everyone you see, because when you get a smile back, it helps you be at ease. Good morning, hi, hello, my name is Beatrice, hi. Smile, say hello to everyone. And the first day will actually get quicker than you expected. Ask questions and ask your assessor on your first day, when will we do my initial interview? Ask questions. Don't be so shy. These people understand, they've been students themselves. All you need to do is make sure you are ahead of things. If they see you're on top of things, they'll sit up. Even if you meet an assessor who is not ahead of things, like who is a bit laid back, if they see that you are a student who is ready to get this signed off, ready to learn, trust me, they will sit up. So have all these things in place. If you ask them on your first day, please, when are we going to get my initial interview done? And they say, oh, we'll do it later today. Great. If we keep quiet, he or she most likely might move it to some other day. Say it. Can we do it today? If you're busy, we can do it tomorrow. And make sure, if your rota hadn't been done before that day, you need to tell them, what days in this week will I come to work? Who will I be working with? Will I be working with you, my assessor, or will I be with my supervisor? Know all these things. Now, you didn't buy that notepad for buying sake. You need to write something on it. On your first day, you're going to see a lot of things you already know. Things you're going to find out you know about a lot of things more than you thought you knew. But you're still going to encounter new things. Write things up. Is it drugs? You're doing medication rounds with your assessor or with your nurse. Write things down. Ask them questions. If you think you want the question immediately, just ask. You get an answer. Then you can go back home and do some more reading on it. Ask questions, please. Ask questions. Don't be shy. It's going to help them know that, okay, this person is ready to learn. If you just keep quiet, actually, you're going to give them an impression that you're not ready, you're not interested. Don't just keep quiet. Be involved in conversations, be involved in patient care. If there's something you know that you need to contribute, say it. Don't be shy. Say it. Everybody would acknowledge you and be like, okay, this is her first placement, or this is his first placement, and they're doing so well. All right. Now, finally, before you leave the ward, and it's nearly time for you to go, or you've had your final interview, and the truth is, from your first day, it gets easier. By the time you're coming for your second shift and your third shift and your fourth shift, it just gets easier. You get more at ease with every shift you do. And even sometimes, if you run into issues, make sure you speak with your assessor. Make sure you speak with your supervisor. If you had a problem with someone, just let it go. Or if you think it makes you uncomfortable, make sure you say it to your assessor. Don't just keep quiet. Be assertive. Mention it. Raise your concerns. This is what happened, and it made me really uncomfortable. And everybody understands that you're already anxious. It's your first placement. So raise your concerns. Let your assessor know, and you'll be fine. I promise you'll be fine. I didn't know how good my first placement would be before going, else I would have actually calmed myself down, to be honest. Everything went so well, and I was so anxious. But by the time I did my first week, I was okay. I just knew that, okay, I think I'm on top of things. And the truth is, when you're on top of things, you feel better. It's when you know deep down that I don't think I'm doing enough, or I don't think I'm pushing enough, or I don't think I'm asking enough questions, or I don't think I did what I needed to do before this placement started. That's when you might run into issues. If you do your midterm, why am I saying midterm? If you do your mid-interview and you still haven't gone for your spoke, and you know that you need to go on this spoke, else you won't be signed off, please mention it. Push. Tell them you can organize this spoke yourself if you have to. How do you do that? Call the ward. Call another ward. You know that you will get these things done. Just arrange it with your assessor. Make sure you are on the same page, and then that's done and sorted. One thing I need to tell you is that it's going to be fine. I promise you, it's going to be fine. And you're going to learn, and you're going to meet people, and it's going to get easier. Okay? Now, if you've watched to this point, please consider subscribing to my channel, like this video, and share it to everyone you know are either starting their nursing program soon, or have just started, or will soon be going for their placement, their first placement. And all these tips, actually, they're not just applicable to your first placement. It's just something you can build on and continue with your subsequent placements. Okay? So that's it. If you have any more questions you think I didn't cover, please feel free to ask. comments and I'll respond. I'll answer your questions, and yeah, you can also email me. I'll keep my email address in the description box. If you think you don't want to ask your question in the comment section, I'll appreciate it in the comment section. But if you think you're not comfortable, you can email me and I'll give you a response. Okay? And I wish you all the best on your first placement, and I really hope it goes well. And do your homework. You need to put in the work as well. Okay? Please consider subscribing. My name is Beatrice once again. Goodbye till next time.